And we are live. Good evening and welcome to Sister Soul Sessions. Tonight's conversation is one we've been looking forward to for quite a long time. Fathers in Faith is about celebrating the men who lead, provide, build businesses, and leave a legacy for generations to come.
June is also Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we just wanted to create a space where men can be seen, be heard, and most importantly, just be appreciated and celebrated in this space.
Exactly. So
Tonight
let's
we're
go
going
ahead
to
and meet
discuss
our incredible
fatherhood.
panel. Sorry, sis, it's my sound. But let's go ahead and meet the men behind the legacy. Please introduce yourself and tell us who you are, what you are building, and what legacy you're actually creating right now.
I guess I'll go. My name is Just Jay. I am affectionately called Mr. Goodwoods because Goodwoods is one of my brands. It's a luxury smoking accessory. But most recently, I am the author of Eternity in Real Time, which is a book about grief and loss and love that persists, and how we can build intentionally the kind of love and life that lasts forever in the here and now. So that's that. Goodwoods, an attorney in real time. I'm an author, a writer, and a producer. So, I'm glad to be here. And a father, grandfather, all that good stuff.
Thank you so much.
What's up?
Anyone else?
What's going on, everybody? Kenneth Scales here, coming down all the way from Minneapolis, Minnesota. It is actually not cold over here. Finally, the weather broke for us, so we're doing really well over here. If you just asked me, I'm a fatherpreneur, like many gentlemen on this call. I'm an owner and CEO of the Bowtie Billionaire brand. We focus on men's personal care products, such as our beard oil. So they also call me the beard, So. But super happy to be here. Father of two, 7-year-old, a 6-month-old. I'm a girl dad now, y'all. So, I'm super excited. Should I be excited for fathers that have daughters? I don't know. I don't know what I'm setting myself up for. But I am super excited to be here. Thank you, Brittany. Thank you, B. I'm so excited to be here. So I'll pass the mic.
All right, I'll go next. Fatherpreneur, I like that a lot, Kenneth. My name is Thomas Deere. I'm the author of Teddy Makes Sense, teaching the youth about financial literacy and being more responsible with their funds at a young age. I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. I now reside in Washington, D.C. And as far as just where I see myself trying to take Teddy Makes Sense next is developing an application that will further that effort. So that's it.
Yes.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go. Will Roundtree, fatherpreneur. I'm still in that Kenny, so thank you. Out here in Las Vegas, where it is currently 104 degrees. So, but I'm the founder and CEO of We Management Services, where we are a financial educational company. Literally been traveling, the world, teaching people about how to invest in their very first investment property without using any of their own money. I'm a 3-time author. Obviously, I'm a dad. My son is 16 years old, going on 26. And
Right.
but the legacy that I'm really focused on is really building a legacy. I think often the term generational wealth and legacy has been really cool buzzwords over the past 6 years, but I'm very intentional about making sure that is in place for him. I bought him his first 4-unit apartment building in September. So my son owns real estate. I'm helping him build his clothing brand. He's getting into modeling, and I'm really focused on him identifying and understanding what his IP is, because that's going to be his legacy. Although I'm leaving a legacy for him, so I'm really intentional in not just making it sound cool or a hashtag or a buzzword so I can get some social media clicks.
Right. Thank you. Welcome.
I'll jump in. Tony Turner, originally from East St. Louis, Illinois, raised in Arkansas, now in Houston, Texas since '03. I'm the owner, co-founder of Guilt-Free Temptation, non-dairy ice cream. We don't have no lactose, no refined white sugar. So trying to give people that can't eat ice cream or ran away from ice cream like myself a chance to enjoy America's favorite dessert. Also with Twisted Vibes Apparel, give people, man, that you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars to look good. I want you to look good, feel good, because at Twisted Vibes, everybody's royalty. I don't care what side of the track you come from, you come to Twisted Vibes. And then I get a lot of things out to the community. I do a lot of backpack drives, a lot of things. When people walk by, whatever, hey, you need something, let me know. I take care of people. I drop stuff off at the homeless. Looking into some sober living houses to pass on to my kids. My youngest is 29, so I got 4, 3 girls. So I'm letting you know, hey, it's difficult being a girl dad when they get older. When they're younger, best thing ever. When they get older, I just find myself buying a bunch of guns. So I got a whole closet full. But no, man, it's good, man. The girls are fast. My son is the baby, but he don't like being called no baby. So, but that's it, man, with me, man. Easy going, smooth, always into stuff, big on history, man. Had to re-educate myself from Western civilization. Not that I'm against Western civilization, but do a lot of studying abroad. So really had to tear down and rebuild what I have learned, because most of the time I just argue with people what I graduated in college from. So if I pass, you can't argue with me. So I had to get that stuff out of my head, man, and really go learn what's going on with my people. Reset a lot of things that moved me from being a citizen to a nationalist, and things out of Chicago I learned, and studying with some Moors and stuff like that. But that's pretty much the base of Tony Turner.
Thank you, Tony. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and take the stage now. My name is John DeBerry. I am a father of 4. 3 beautiful girls are my oldest, and then my baby boy is now 10 months. So I'm in the thick of it. I get the luxury of serving as the board chair for an organization called Cool Dad, which I'm down here in Houston. We kind of started there. So if you see us, take a look. You know, our mission mainly is to uplift and amplify fatherhood and what that looks like. And as you alluded to earlier, being Brittany, you know, we are foundational pillars internally and externally. And we want to make sure that we are creating a space for a better space for our children and future generations to come. And so that's different angles, but you know, that's the privilege I get to serve in my capacity.
Yes, and thank you so much, Mr. DeBerry. Appreciate you all, and welcome.
And also, so when your children, gentlemen, or grandchildren, because some of you are grandpas, your papas up here. So what stories do you think your children and grandchildren will tell about you years from now? What do you hope they're saying about you?
I'll jump in. I hope
Alright.
they want to know how much I took time, because there's a difference from presence and presence. And even though I work, and I've been at the VA for 18 years, and I had 3 jobs at once, and before I got into owning my own business for LLCs, then switched them up for corporations. So I hope that my grandkids are with me now. You know, I have grandkids, and they out with the ice cream and stuff, man, with the clothes. And so they seeing it. They count the money and stuff. I let them drop stuff off. So I hope they say how much how hard he worked, but he didn't put it before family. When things happen, I hit the brakes. If I got to hit the brakes, and sometimes I get tunnel vision because I'm so into it, but my kids are like, hey, Pop, you need to hit the brakes. We need you here. So, and that's it, man. Let them know how much I care, how detailed I was. And when it came to anything they had going on, I made sure I was there to meet boyfriends, meet girlfriends, meet parents. I know what goes on in my house, but I ain't let my kids stay in nobody's house because I don't know what Uncle Jay did. So I wanted to be over there and know these folks. You know what I'm saying? So, and I was a dad to the community. A lot of my friends didn't have fathers. My son friends or my daughter friends. So I was that dad that was picking them up, taking them to volleyball games, soccer games, track meets, buying them food to eat, helping them with homework. If they need shoes or whatever I did, they didn't need hair because I took them to my barber. He cut their hair for free. So just want to give like my uncle who was square, in which I am, how he gave to the community.
Oh, that's great.
You know, I'll say, you know, the things that I think my children will tell is that I've moved in a manner led truly by God, first and foremost. You know, anything that I've done, that's been the utmost intention, is to make sure that, you know, I was moving in a capacity that God wants me to move in. And then secondly, I've been able to love their mother the the way that she deserves to be loved. That's a big component. I want them to know that their father is madly, who I am, madly in love with my wife. And then thirdly, execution. You know, it's one thing to talk and talk and talk, but I want my children to understand that you've got to put, you know, actions to words. And so those are the things that I pray every day that my children are seeing me do. And I hope those are the stories they'll share.
Thank you so much. Yes, definitely leading a legacy of putting the family first is really big, especially in our community. You know, I grew up, as some of you were saying, with community and friends who didn't have their fathers around, things like that, or that male figure to really guide them. So I'm glad that you guys are taking that, you know, challenge and making sure that you're presenting that in your family, but also the community. So I really appreciate that. Was there anyone else that wanted to chime in on that question or related to anything anyone else said before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, no, I'll jump in because I think it kind of goes off of what John was saying. He said, you know, he was talking about how he wants to make sure everything he does is led by God. And I would say in a broader sense, if you will, well, in the broader sense of application, my kids would probably say, kids, grandkids, they would all probably say that I insisted on intention. I insisted on moving and thinking with intention. If you do something, even if you did it for the wrong thought, don't come to me and say, I don't know why I did it, or I just did it. Like, so I think if I'm known for anything in my household, it is stressing the importance of intention, right? And being intentional, not only about the outcome that you want, but about the process and about the beginning, like just intentionality all the way through. Everything should have a purpose. If it's no purpose, then there's no point in doing it.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with all that as well. And one thing, when I reflect on that question, I think about what my dad gave me, right? And even though it wasn't all peaches and glory and all that and cream, but I pulled out the things that really resonated with me, which I'm really bringing back down to my son, which is really reminding him how lovable, valuable, and important that he is. And so I would like him to tell that story, you know, how lovable and valuable that he is, that daddy continued to remind him, to push him, you know, to be not only just the nice young man that he is, but to push him to be even greater, you know, and also the nice young lady that my daughter is, and push her to be even greater. So, yeah.
Sure. Thank you, gentlemen. And just moving on to the next question for you guys. What is one word that defines the season of life that you're currently in? That could be in business, fatherhood. What would be one word?
I'll go ahead and go. For me, I would say peace. You know, being able to create a peaceful environment. You know, I'm a full-time dad. My son, you know, primarily lives with me, but I've been able to create a peaceful environment for him so he can actually be a kid. He can be a teenager. You know, he's able to learn through his own faults and through the examples that I'm setting for him. And so I think that often, and I'm sure a lot of us have had similar or know someone who has similar stories. Some of us grew up in chaos, and it's hard to be focused when there's so much noise around. But I was very intentional in making sure that I've created a peaceful environment for my son, and it gives him the opportunity to really be in tune with who he is becoming. You know, so even when we're dialoguing, I'll ask him about his day. I'll ask him about, you know, where does he see himself? I'm asking him, you know, you're about to be 18 in 2 years. What is it that you want to do with it? Because I don't expect him to do anything that I'm doing. And that's why I'm letting him curate his own path and his own journey. But when there's no peace, it's hard for me to be able to have that dialogue with him and for him to be able to find that journey that he's on right now. So if I had to dial it down to one word, it definitely would be peace.
I step in. I love what that brother just said. For me, that grew up in chaos, it was determination. I saw people that I love succumb to drugs, and I was determined to not do the same thing. I was determined to not fail. Like nothing stops me. Rain, sleet, snow, hills. I expect the hills. I expect the hurdles. I expect everything. You know, I prepare for the worst. If that don't happen, then it's easy. You know, then like he said, it's peaceful. But definitely determined.
And then I'll kind kind of just piggyback off of Brother Turner, the word that comes to mind for me is transition. So along with just being determined, this has been a very trying time, I'll say, on my end. Us as men just having to pivot, transition, and just kind of go with the flow of things, and still, show up as we do day in and day out. So, yeah, definitely.
I think my word would probably be cohesion. Sorry. Yeah, my word would probably be cohesion. I think this season of my life is about all the pieces coming together, about finding ways to make things that look like they're in conflict, to understand the center point they have in common, the agreement. Someone mentioned peace. Yes, definitely peace, but even more so, realizing that it's the conflict inside of me that creates and feeds the conflict around me, right? And so really it's this cohesion and this coming together, almost I don't want to say coagulation, such a sticky kind of word, but you know how when blood clumps and it gets firm and it's thicker and the properties change, that's kind of where I feel this season is in my life. I think that everything is kind of coming in, the loose ends are being tied together. It's kind of all starting to make sense. And it's been a long journey. I mean, this is like 20 years of this cohesion happening. So it's it's transition. I think the other Teddy said transition. Definitely, it's definitely a transition, a time of transition.
Absolutely.
I'm going to say abundance. Sorry, Kenneth. I'm
you
just.
got it.
Yeah, I'm going to say abundance. I'm in a season of that, and I think a lot of it has to do with perspective, right? There's an abundance of noise in my house. Let me be very clear with 4 children, but there's an abundance of love and a lot of gratitude as well. And I think a lot of it has to do with perspective on how you look at things. I've heard the saying, whatever you ask for God, whatever you ask God for, He tends to give it to you. Probably not in the way you ask for it. So often when I'm asking for patience, I have to be really mindful about asking for patience because He's given me the test to be patient, probably more often than not. So there's a ton of abundance in my house and the season of life I'm in.
Yeah, that's what's up. I love abundance. I feel like I'm in a season of grace, knowing that life is very short. And I realize that, the more grace that I lend out, the more grace I receive in return. Right. And so one of the things, like, especially like this week, it was like actually a month ago, my car got hit. I'm like, that's something that I didn't even, I wasn't in the car, and car got hit. And then I got my car out. And then the same day I got my car out was the same day that there was a parking pole, and I made a sharp turn and hit the parking pole the same day I got my car out. So I'm like, Ken, slow down, give yourself grace. That insurance bill gonna be crazy, but with grace, it's gonna be taken care of already. But those are the things, like, when my children, they see that in real time, they always see, like, how dad is gonna handle this big right? How does he handle this? Is he pulling his hair out? Is he pacing back and forth? But they see that I handle it with grace, and it's going a long way.
Ken, we gotta get you a chauffeur, man. We gotta get you a chauffeur for sure.
You know what? Yesterday I Ubered. I was like,
So glad you were safe, Ken. But thank you, gentlemen, for sharing those strong and powerful words, letting us know where you are in these stages. We know it's not easy being fathers, but of course, just men in this era, in this time. So we truly appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that with us.
And then when I think back, because I have 4 kids, so I have 3 girls, and then my youngest is my son. And I think about my upbringing without my dad, and I asked you, gentlemen, what does being a Black father mean to you in today's world?
I'll jump in. For me, protection first. When I just had to worry about me, but then when I became a father, my life changed. I found that I had somebody that I wasn't ready for, had no experience, because I was, like I said, raised in chaos, no male figure. So the streets and friends and different people kind of had a hand on me. But when I became a father, I knew what I wanted to give my girls, and especially when my son came. So I wanted to give them everything I didn't have, but want to protect them, give them peace, but give them guidance at the same time. Let them know, how can I say, kindness is inside the home. When you get out, you want to give people, lead with respect, but don't expect it all the time. And control your energy, because if I can control your energy, I can control you. Always be calm, never let people see you sweat. You know, some people have a good poker hand. I didn't used to have one, but I have a great one now. You know what I'm saying? At 52 years old, you learn how to deal with things, multiple people, multiple backgrounds, multiple religions. So you know how to center myself, I think, before I speak. Sometimes that don't go my way, causing what Tony you get. But majority of the time when my kids are around, especially my girls, I watch what I say, because I don't want my grandbabies repeating it, and I don't want my girls who are grown women now. I know they got their own mind and own life, but still, hey, I see my daddy handle this like this. And I want them to see me calm and control, but always protecting them, always, until I had to remove that umbrella. And sometimes I get out of line and still put it over them, like, hey, you still my baby. You grown, 30 some years old, but when I see you, I see a little girl, little baby. So.
Thank you.
I'll again just kind of piggyback off of Brother Turner. I think it's taught me to be more vulnerable. I don't think I mentioned it early on, but I'm a father of I'm a girl dad. So got a beautiful baby girl. And I guess I'll say, like, when she was born, I realized in that moment that I didn't have all the answers and I didn't have it figured out. You know, prior to that, I thought I did, you know, but afterwards, you know, I guess it led to a lot of introspection, right? And so, you know, along the way, sort of like what you've already mentioned, Brother Turner, you know, it's me having to, you know, learn a lot as I go through trial and error, through those experiences. And yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a journey. You know, I think, you know, Just Jay, you mentioned that early on, and I'm on this journey and I'm trying to just get better and better each day, you know? So,
yeah. There we go. For me, I like the protection. All of those are good. I think my focus as a father, as a Black father, especially in these days and times, has been to try to prepare everybody around me for the time when I'm not there. Because I think if there's anything that is becoming ever more evident in our you know, society in the days and times, one is that Black life is not valued as it should be, and two, that nobody's going to take care of us. We got to take care of us. So as a father, my primary focus has been, of course, the protection. You want to protect, but then I realized I can't protect everywhere, right? I can't be everywhere. But what I can try to do, and the brothers mentioned this earlier, I can try to impart my wisdom. I can try to impart my perspective, my worldview. But I'm always telling my children, my grandchildren either. I don't tell them that, you know, one day Papa ain't gonna be here no more. But I tell them, I'm like, look, I'm trying to get you ready for the world so you can fly solo without me. Because I know for a fact that there's gonna come a time when I won't be able to support them. And so my goal now is to watch them fly. It's to watch them fly and watch them fall and catch them and say, go up and fly again. Because I don't want them to wait to fly till I'm gone and there's nobody there to catch them. So it's protection, but it's protection mixed with just active, intentional training. Like my daughters, and this was like a couple of years ago. No, actually, it was maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. So at that time, I had I've got 5 kids because I'm in a blended marriage. I'm in a blended family, and we got grandkids, all that stuff. But for my first wife who passed, I had 2 daughters, and my daughters at the time were probably 12 and 15, and we go to the dentist. Okay, now I'm taking them both to the dentist. I got 2 clipboards. You know what I did? Here's yours. Here's yours. Let's learn how to fill these things out. So my daughters now are already learning how to do the things so that if they're in an emergency and they have to go to the doctor, they're not looking around for somebody to help them. It was a very small thing, But as a Black father, I take every opportunity and try to turn it into a teaching moment because I don't know when I'll be out the class. That's kind of where I am.
Yeah. I want to piggyback on that. I think balance is incredibly important because you don't want to traumatize your children by giving them too much, but you also don't want to send them out into the world unprepared, right? And that's a challenging thing. I think as a Black father, why it's so important is natural. There's been a negative stigma behind being a Black father and presence, and so what I've realized when becoming a father is there's something greater than just myself at hand. And we have a huge a job or role, again, not just in our internal community, but in our external community about being present and being active. And so, that's a key component to all of this. And your children seeing that is going to change a lot. Now, again, not just in your small circle, your immediate family, but everything around you. We have to continue to uplift and build our communities. And I think, Black fathers have to continue to do that and amplify that.
Yeah, well said, John, because I was just thinking that too. Like, being a father, it's the greatest opportunity and it's also the greatest responsibility, and I'm like, I feel it every time I go into the schools, right? And so I realized that when I go to parent-teacher conferences, like, where's the other dads at, right? Or when I go to doctor's appointments, right? And so I'm like, I'm standing there in the gap. I feel like I'm standing in the gap, for so many of fathers that's not there, And so, like, even when I pick my son up from some program, like, I'm the Black dad picking up the son. I'm like, where's the other fathers at, right? Not saying that no other fathers come pick up their children, but at the same time, I'm like, other children see that there's a Black dad in the building, and I'm his Black dad, but I'm also to be your Black dad as well, as a role model, in our community and stepping up. Because I feel like a long time ago, this lady I used to work with, she had told a story. It was a dope story. She said she went to Africa, and I can't remember what part of Africa, and they asked, how are the children, right? And so they knew in their tribe was that if a dad passed away in war, all the other men in the village would step up into those children's lives. And so, like, it's not just enough that, their children's okay, but far beyond when you're gone, that your children will still be taken care of by, the other male figures as well. So.
Yeah, just listening to everybody, it made me think about what being a Black dad means to me is leadership. I think that sometimes we find ourselves where there's a lack of leadership in the Black community, but we create our own communities or within our own silos of our, sphere of people who we are around. And so leadership is important. And that's one of the things that I try to thrive myself on. I try to make sure that I'm surrounded by other, Black men who are leaders as well, because as they say, iron sharpens iron. And when you think about the definition of a leadership, is to inspire for a common goal, and at the end of the day, for me, it's about greatness, and so I think, leadership is something that I really, thrive on. It's something that I focus on. It's something that I instill into my son. Like he doesn't even know what it means to be a follower, because I've been instilling him to be, very strong-minded, to be a leader, to make his own decisions. It was so interesting the other day. All his friends want to go do something. I don't know. And I was like, son, do you want to go? He was like, no, Dad, like that's their thing. I'm focused on this clothing brand. So he's already showing those leadership qualities, and it's just about, continuously inspiring him to just have his own mind, because it's very easy for not even just children, for grown men to be impressionable and not be the own leader in their own household. So as all of the brothers on here have echoed, leadership, that word just really stood out, as all of them share, variations of what's important to them as being a Black father.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for answering that. I actually do have a follow-up question, piggybacking off of what Mr. Turner and as well as Kenny had mentioned. What's something that you had to learn the hard way because nobody taught it to you? And you can answer this.
You know what? For me, it was the difference or the importance of improving versus proving. So much of masculinity and you could say black masculinity is performative. You know what I'm saying? We stand a certain way, we talk a certain way. You know, if you don't do this, that whatever. And as a young black man who grew up without a father, because my father passed when I was like in 6th grade, and had to define, and teach himself manhood. I find that the most important thing is not trying to prove things to other people, but to keep making internal developments and improvements on yourself, and then allow those things as they take root to bear fruit, and then people will see it, right? But I think that as a father, well, maybe it was just my struggle, but I wanted people to see it. I wanted them to see it the first time I did it. I wanted them to see the potential in me before I even did it. I wanted them to look at me and go, oh yeah, he's good. He's that, he's this, he's this, he's this. And when they didn't, I felt like somehow my performance was being judged. And maybe it was because, like I said at first, I had to get out of the idea that being the man of the house, being the father of my children and the grandfather of my grandchildren, I had to get out of the idea that it was performative, right? That I was proving to somebody that I was doing the job, that I was doing it well, right? That I was doing it in a way to be admired. And I had to focus on just improving, noticing where I fall short, choosing to try to do something different, and then shifting from there forward. That has been the most impactful change in my life. Just that notice, that choice and that shift, and then reminding myself every day that I am not waking up to prove anything to anybody. I am simply waking up to be better than I was yesterday in all categories. That's the thing I had to learn, because I was breaking myself. I was stressed out. I ain't gonna hold you. I was just, it's like, man, I can't get nothing. Like every time, and it's really not that we can't get anything, right? But it's in these moments where we got so much hope, or we got so much energy, or we put so much investment. Maybe it's in a family member, maybe it's in the business, maybe it's in whatever. We put so much in it, and if it don't pan out, the first thing for me, I don't know about the brothers, they can tell me, is to reflect on me. Jay, what didn't you do? Jay, how did you fall short? Jay, what are you lacking? And while that may seem like I'm being hard on myself, it's kind of the only thing I can fix. And I had to accept that. I can't fix my family. I can't fix how they do it. I can just control how I respond. I can focus. And I can't really control if they tell me, like, for instance, my wife will tell me, hey, I don't like how you did this. I don't like how you showed up, this and this and that. My goal with her is not to prove to her that she's wrong. My goal is to improve myself so there's no question. That's what I had to learn.
I know that's right, Mr. J. Anybody else would like to answer?
For me, I would say, and I'll give you this story. It's probably a little gruesome, but this is how I came up. I had an uncle that was a drill sergeant. I'm the oldest grandson. I'm the oldest son. He would take me out to the fields. I dig trenches. I get up at 4 in the morning. I work out. But he'd take us with these wild hogs, and the hogs would attack us. And his thing was, I didn't want you to be weak. If you can't kill a hog, you can't kill nothing else. So we had farms. If you can't cut this cow up, you feeling something. So I had to learn how to love. And with that, when my daughter's born, I had to learn, because I was raised to be this, not show no emotions. Don't show this. Ain't crying, ain't doing nothing. Whatever happened, that's whatever happened. I had to learn to love and care about my woman, my wife, my kids, my brothers. You brothers. Just because I pass you don't mean I don't need to speak to you. I can speak to this brother, or I can help this brother out without saying, oh, that's his problem. I didn't have none of that in my early years, and up until 11th grade or high school, going to 12th grade, I started to feel something different when my daughter was born. But besides that, I was taught to be immune to certain things. And if I showed it, then they would show me, And so as I got older, I showed my kids something different. You know what I'm saying? I want my son to be a man. That's my only son. but I want my girls don't have to be so masculine, be feminine, but be strategic. You know what I'm saying? But for me, yeah, I didn't know nothing about love coming up, nothing at all. So I learned that in the latter part, early 20s, you know what I'm saying? Didn't know nothing about being a husband, had no role models, no guidance. So, and with me, I know about the other brothers, we used to hide failure. I didn't understand how failure was learning for me. That's advancement. You fail, okay, it's a learning thing. For me, I was not gonna let you see me fail. And if I felt I was gonna fail, I probably pulled out. You know, where now I run to it. Like, oh, I ain't never done this. I ain't never jumped out of a plane. Okay, let's do it. And the dude tell me, hold on. I'm like, I'm gone. You know, so that's what I would say. You know, I feel good to care about people. It feel good to care about people, to love somebody. My brother, somebody that came up that not my biological brother. I got a ton of good friends, man, that they call me. I drop everything for them, man. We built that type of bond. And I'm that brother that if I say I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. And if I can't, I'm gonna tell you the truth. I'm not gonna beat around the bush about it. But I'll never give you my word and not stand on it. So
I'll add just some slight to that. What I would say is learning to seek help, you know, similar to what a lot of the brothers have already mentioned, you know, when you were just us as Black men, that was, you know, my upbringing as well, not really knowing how to love. After having my daughter, failure just hit different, you know, it really does, because, you know, up until that point, you're striving to, you know, prove it to yourself that you're capable of doing all the things that you set your mind to do. And then once you get to that point and you have a daughter, and, you know, all of a sudden you're feeling all of these emotions that you've never felt before, you know, and afterwards it was like, okay, I got to do what I need to do. And that was me, you know, seeking a therapist and having those real tough conversations, you know, winding it back, you know, starting at the beginning, so that, you know, as she gets older, you know, I can be to her what I needed when I was coming up, you know, so.
For me, I'm sorry, Dean. Oh, for me, it's vulnerability. I think, you know, growing up, you know, similar to a lot of gentlemen on the call, yeah, it's like, you know, wasn't allowed to cry, right? Wasn't allowed to be in tune to my emotions, right? And so, like, even earlier this afternoon, picking up my son, and he just emotional. Just, you know, part of me was like, oh man, you know, toughen up. But I was like, no. And then I was like, you know, I'm gonna just let him cry it out. And then later on, he came back to me. He's like, Dad, I just need to get that cry out. I said, son, it gets like that sometimes. You know I need to get my cry out too, you know, and being really in tune to our emotions, you know. And I think that's one of the things, you know, when you think about a man, you don't really think about us as on the vulnerability side, but it takes practice, right? And so my parents did not know how to, you know, deal with me and my emotions, right? It was always go to your room, take a nap, do this, do that, and third. It was like, no, I really got some big thoughts, big feelings here. You know, I'm trying to work through all that stuff. But no one taught me. I had to realize in like with therapy, like how to be in tune to that. And then how do I raise my children up into that as well? And it doesn't make us weaker. It actually makes us more stronger, right? Because we're all human.
I'll say this, as I listen to all of you, and I've realized I don't know anything about being a father. One, and my kids often remind me of that simply because each child is different. I learned watching, you know, my dad, who was a phenomenal father, and I took components of it, but some of it translates and some of it doesn't. So I've often looked for a foundation that I can use on my own. And truthfully, the foundation has really been, you know, the word of God for me to really lean on and figure out what that looks like. But also to what a lot of gentlemen have said is that community around us. As I listen to y'all, I take small nuggets as well. And I say, okay, let me see how I can inject this into my world, because it's nuanced. Every day is different. You know, you walk out that door and things change for you. It changes for your children as well. And so there's no formula. There's no strategy. So while I've adopted a lot of pieces, there's been a lot. I have no clue what I'm doing. And my children often remind me of that too, whether that's them eating too much candy or clowning me for whatever I'm wearing, or even, I'll give y'all a funny story. I might appreciate this. My two oldest girls are really big into Michael Jackson, as probably the world is right now with the recent biopic. And the other day, my 8-year-old asked me what Shimon meant. Now, I didn't even know what she was talking about. It was random. I'm washing dishes. I just gotten back from work. I'm like, man, what are you talking about? She's like, Shimon. And I'm like, she's like, what Michael Jackson says. I'm like, oh, okay. It's like a strong come on, but not everyone can say Shimon. Don't walk. I don't say it. You probably can't get away with it. I can't wear a sparkly glove or anything. So like I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to give her the best answer possible. She probably gonna tell someone that no one's allowed to say it because I told her no one should be saying it except MJ. And yeah, but it's just a blast. Just kind of rolling with the punches. Sean, man, we can do this. I tried it. It don't even sound good coming out of my mouth. I'm done.
Yes. I'm in that Michael Jackson era with my daughter as well. She keeps telling me things. I was like, I was there. I remember it, but keep sharing. So I definitely understand that. I just want to take a moment. If you guys are just joining us, we have another guest that popped in. I just want to introduce him quickly, Mr. Michael Clinton. If you wouldn't mind just letting people know about you a little bit as you came in.
Yeah, listen, first of all, I apologize for being late. I was busy being a girl dad, right? It happens, especially with the camps and, the sports and all that kind of stuff. I am from Baltimore, Maryland originally. I live in Los Angeles, California right now. Shout out to Brittany and B for doing this, man. I mean, how often do you get somebody who cares at all what a bunch of dads think about, care about, want to do, feel? I mean, we don't get this, right? It's not normal. So let's just take a second to just acknowledge the weight of what they have tried to put together in bringing men and dads and fathers and all the things that we have to carry that often it feels like no one sees and no one appreciates. And Father's Day coming around, they definitely, the family will try to make you feel loved. And you will feel loved, and they do amazing things. I don't want to belittle it at all, but the volume, dude, the volume and the weight of it is so tremendous, and it's so year round, day after day after day. I'm sure moms could say the same thing, right? Mother's Day should be once a week, right? Once a month, something like that. But for the moment, we all can just take a minute and just say, look, it's a lot. You know what I mean? All of the things I didn't hear the question, right? I don't even have to hear the question. I know where it started, and it resonates with me. Just now trying to be so much better than my father was to me, right? I mean, he just didn't know what he didn't know, right? There's nobody sending him to therapy. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't have the skills, the tools to give the love to me that I needed, that I am now giving to, my children, who I have a son who's 9 and a daughter who's 5. And I'm just trying to kind of blow him out of the water in a way, right? But then if you remember your grandfather, he didn't have the tool either, right? He probably had less than your dad had to work with. And so, look, we all out here just trying to be better. Right. And, I realized just in terms of how love was shown, one thing I have learned to articulate growing up in Baltimore versus Los Angeles is the currency of love was time, like spending time with the people, right? Like we just went over each other's houses. We played cards, we played Uno, we played spades, because you didn't really have a lot of money, right? So you just show up. I don't have to call. I don't have to text. I'm in the neighborhood, right? I miss that very, very much, being so far away from my family. And I feel like more and more in not just in Los Angeles, but just in today's day, the currency of love can more be material, right? What can you do? What can you give? What can you spend? Where can you go? I was trying to teach this to my son yesterday. he wants to have, play dates with his friends. And the first thing he thinks is, I want to go to Disneyland with them, right? I want to go to Dave and Buster's with them. It's like, yo, that is not how you show love. That is not how you build a relationship. Y'all come, y'all hang, y'all might play some video games, y'all might play some checkers, some chess, y'all might tell jokes, y'all might play sport. There's lots of ways to interact. And just by being together, that is how you build a relationship and show love. So that was kind of my one of my one nuggets about love and how things have seemed to kind of shift a bit since, we were all growing up.
For sure. And thank you so much, Mr. Clinton, for joining us and letting us, into your world a little bit. Definitely agree. B and I talk about this all the time about how we used to have villages and all of our family lived pretty close, or we would go to someone's house during the summers and things like that. And that's something that we still try to do with our kids. But like you said, I mean, they just want to be on their phones and they'd rather hang with their friends, at the big ticket items instead of like, go ride a bike, go see if everyone's outside, if you see a bunch of bicycles in front of somebody's house. So things that we definitely took for granted probably. But I love that you gentlemen are, like I said, making sure that you're bringing these values back to our community and our children, and of course your children. With that being said, what responsibility do you feel successful men have to the next generation?
I just had the mic, so I just wasn't sure she was asking me. Listen, I mean, I guess the next generation is first and foremost our children, right? The responsibility is kind of massive. Thankfully they're still talking about Michael Jackson, right? And talking about maybe New Edition, talking about maybe some of these older school rappers and singers and stuff like that, because if you listen to music today and just the messages that are being put out, it's crazy. You know what I mean? And I'm sure our parents would have said it was crazy. But it's kind of our responsibility, I think, to kind of give them some of these values and anchor them to a simpler time. And then beyond our children, if you're in a position to do it, I happen to have, employees and staff, and, I'm on a board of YMCA. So if you have the opportunity to mentor, right, to make time for things like this, right, you never know who's listening, who will be motivated, who will be inspired. If you're connected to your church organizations, I mean, we all have a light that's meant to shine. We all have something to contribute to the next generation. And so I would just encourage, everyone to do what you can beyond your own children, because there's a lot of fools out there with a lot of kids and no responsibility, and who knows what they passing on. So when you get people who are doing something, who are solid, who are motivated, who are inspired, who are trying to achieve, I mean, we are the men and the women who have to, feel that kind of weight of responsibility to give something to the next generation.
I want to piggyback real quick. I know, Jay, you about to hop on one thing, Michael, that you did say, because I had this conversation in the barbershop with my barber today about the music component, right? That's always a real hot topic. And I start to wonder, when I start criticizing music, do I sound like how my father sounded when he was criticizing music, right? Secondly, I remember when my mother took me to a Parliament concert. Let me be very clear. He was walking around in a diaper and all of that. So my point in all of this is there have been, the eras of music and all of that they've all had they've all been different, and they've all shown different elements that aren't necessarily acceptable now. I'm a music head, so I get where you're going with it, but I think we also have to be embracing of what's happening in the newer generation. But to answer your question, Brittany, I think the thing that we have to make sure we do as successful fathers and men is make sure that our children are grounded and aware of just where things started, history, et cetera. Because the old adage, hard times make hard people, good times or hard times, I'm messing it up, but essentially they end up making soft people after you become successful. That's really it, right? And if we continue to be successful, ultimately you're going to probably create a generation of soft people, which ultimately will bring back hard times. And so we have to be very intentional about making sure that this next generation, if we're deeming ourselves successful, understand that it can all be stripped away, and we got to understand how hard it was to get to the place that we are in now. So I think that's a really important component about being a successful father and Black man.
I think we have to, as successful Black men, our responsibility to the coming generations, whether they're related to us or not, is to leave them a culture behind that they can build on. If there's anything I think that we suffer from in America as Black people, it is the sense of diaspora in our own culture, right? When you think about Black culture, it's very hard to identify Black culture without pointing to an image on the TV screen or without talking about some other kind of media that we've been fed, right? Or maybe we go back to Kwanzaa or whatever, right? But my point is, our success will give us a platform. Whether that platform is YouTube or that platform is a stage, the platform is influence, right? And you have influence when you're moving things, when you're moving capital, when you're making things happen, you have influence. And I believe our responsibility is to intentionally work toward crafting a culture that we can leave behind to our people so that it's no longer a hodgepodge of this and that and slave stories and this and this and that. And we just got to build from someplace. I think part of our problem with the whole gender wars that's going on in the dating scene is we're still letting other people navigate and build our culture, right? We're still letting other people dictate what it means to be a Black man showing up for a Black woman or vice versa, right? So as Black men, I guess I can't stress this enough. I just want us to be really intentional, not just on our mentoring, but in making sure that everything we're doing we're asking what kind of culture are we building, how will it endure, and what is it put in place in our community that we're going to need for the future? That.
My thing is, I would say to educate, protect, and provide. I have a master's degree, healthcare administration, and I don't remember one professor teaching me about a C Corp or EIN, credit, none of that stuff. And I pay $1,800 some a course. So I think our kids need to know that, as a lot of them don't know that, and they believe in the system that's in place. And a lot of us was teaching that system in place because I was one of the people teaching that system until I learned something else. To protect, I learned how to protect myself at 8 years old, where most of my people, if you had, say, a weapon or something, it stay too little, it's too young. But I see their kids on tractors at 8 years old. I see their kids in a gun range at 8 years old. I see their kids learning to build and put stuff at 8 years old. But we instead of protecting our kids, they too young to learn this, but I held on to more stuff when I was younger than I did when I got older, because I can go outside and that mind quickly changed to what they're doing over there. But when I was younger, I could speak Spanish fluently, but I can't do that now. so then that's what I mean, man. So I would teach my kids about credit. I know how to piggyback. All my kids got that score from me. And then, hey, you destroy it, but you can learn from that. I didn't have that option. I didn't know nothing about starting a business until I was done with college. I knew how to go and do your HR stuff and run that. I knew that very well, but that's what was taught to me. So I felt like something was being kept from me purposely until somebody else that looked like me came and said, hey, that's not how you do that. This is how you do this. And some other people that didn't look like me grabbed me and I went and taught me some things too. So when I got kids, I knew exactly what to do. So that was building a foundation for them. Because if your foundation shaky, then ain't nothing gonna stand on it, no way. So I want you to be able to build this, save your money, learn how to invest, learn how to day trade. A lot of things that may not look good, sound good, or be fun to you, but gonna make sure you're solid. And that's what I'm passing on to my grandkids now.
Something I'll add just real quick, just learning how to own up to your shortcomings, your mistakes. I've made a lot of those over recent years. And I just want to be able to pass that down and just let them know that, hey, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in now if, I didn't take the initiative or take the step to say, hey, you know what? I made a mistake. Or, yeah, I could have did that better. And so, nobody's perfect. And it's okay to, just learn from those mistakes and be better.
Yeah, just piggybacking off of Thomas and what everybody else has echoed, the one word that stands out to me is accountability. I think the accountability is the barometer to, the success that we want to leave for that next generation and for our children and for our communities and, and our extended communities. And so I think that nowadays it is very easy for adult Black men to have a lack of accountability because nobody is holding them accountable. So that accountability piece is very important, and it's something that I think we as leaders in our own respective right, in our own silos, we do a great job of holding each other accountable, sometimes just even indirectly in our innate competitiveness of what it is that we do in our own fields. And so, yeah, I just think of accountability, even like what, Brother Tony was talking about, understanding finance. That's one of the areas we're dead last in. And so understanding that those things are important, and we have to have accountability, not just to be a great person from a morality standpoint, but we also have to have accountability to make sure that our children don't grow up in poverty, because that's still a topic that I think we don't touch enough on in our community.
Man, I echo everybody. I haven't heard now one lie on this live. I have now heard one lie. One thing I would say is we them ones, right? We are them ones. I don't know any. I've seen examples. I've seen Debbie fathers, but I don't hang around any Debbie fathers. Any fathers that I've hang around with are just like you gentlemen on this call, right? And so when I say we them ones, is when I think about, it's one thing if you are the first generation of a good dad, but it's a whole nother thing if you're the last generation of a good dad. So we all have that responsibility to make sure that we not only impart onto our children, but also the other children that's around our children, right? And so it's one thing to like be the first, but it's a whole nother thing to make sure that we're not the last on this one. So successful dads, successful businesses, successful anything, you got to learn how to duplicate yourself, because a tree that does not bear fruit, do I need to go further? A tree that does not bear fruit. And so we are all fruit bearers, and we all have that responsibility to continue and carry the torch on to the next generation.
Well said, gentlemen. Thank you.
Very well said. So I do have a very important question to ask you, gentlemen. I either follow all of your pages from our podcast page, or you all follow me on my personal page, and I watch you all. I am actually the only girl, and I have 5 brothers. I'm very close with my brothers, and they all go through these waves of just silent battles that they go through. What would be some advice that you would give to a Black man who feels like they have to carry this like silent burden? What advice would you give that Black man right now?
Give it up. Stop. Don't. You're gonna break. Find somebody you can share it with. If it's not a friend or a family member or a reverend or a minister or a therapist, and somebody who holds a lot inside. I can tell you that no matter how strong you are, no matter your capacity, we all have a breaking point. Mine came earlier this year. I ended up going to therapy. And it was therapy, I feel like, that really helped me move not just to where I was trying to get, but some steps beyond it. So I know I know the weight. I know the pressure that men feel not to let anybody know there's any cracks in their armor, right? Not to give anybody the opportunity to question their stability, to question their manhood, to question whatever, right? And I know that vulnerability can be hard, but it's life-saving. Honestly, no matter how strong you are, it may take you 20 years, but you're gonna break. So you got to find somebody. The Bible says 2 is better than 1. He was right.
Yes.
I'll go next. Yeah, I think, well, first and foremost, I mean, prayer. Like, I believe in prayer. Like, I have fallen on my face in the middle of trying to figure out payroll or utilities or whatever it is that we were dealing with. And, when you in the dark, when you in that storm, Jesus is there. And I have seen him show up at the last second in ways that there is no other explanation. So I would start there, right? The second thing I'll say is my wife. My wife has been tremendous, and she'd probably be surprised that I would answer her as next, because your wife is like going through it with you, whether she wants to or not, right? She don't necessarily want, she is getting, sometimes she's getting dragged, and sometimes she's just carrying you, and she does it in ways that you don't even realize. She's just carrying things. So if he's not married, I would encourage him to find a spouse that they're not just physically attracted to each other, but they spiritually connected, that they grounded in terms of like, what they want for their children, where they want their children to grow. Because sometimes, if you have multiple connections with your spouse, then when one of them's weak, then the others can pull you through, right? So you got to be connected in multiple ways. And then the third thing is I have a weekly Bible study. We call it a Bible study, but it has grown into just a brotherhood. And every Monday we get together as often as we can, and we're just vulnerable. We pray for each other. We talk through things. It's a safe space, and it's all achieving, Black men. And so I encourage you to kind of find that little circle. Sometimes it might come through a fraternity. I happen to be a Kappa. I have a lot of line brothers and, graduate, old bros who I can rely on too. But and then if you just have one person, as others have said, that you can rely on, but it's definitely not necessary to go through it alone. You're never alone. It's just layers to it.
I would say I appreciate what the brothers are saying. I agree with them. My wife carried me through a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And it's like the yin yang, where I'm energetic, true fire sign. She's calm, And sometimes like, why are you so freaking calm? But for the brothers that ain't saying nothing, I understand that, because I just be like that. And a lot of us are untrusted when it comes to secrets and stuff like that. Not saying it about your brothers. I'm saying about just some brothers, period. They have to find that, because most people, if I tell you something, you leave out my life, I don't have you no more, I shared all this stuff with you, And a lot of times the stuff you give folks is just loading their gun and shoot it back in your face. So when we done went through stuff like that, it makes us pull back. And, I have line brothers, I have uncles, I have aunties, I have a lot of people, but it's certain things that made me stronger by just holding it to myself and figuring out before I went to somebody. But then when I did start talking to people that I can trust, it helped release a lot off of me. I felt a whole lot better. I could breathe easy, because I'm one of people, I'll be up all night into the next morning trying to figure some things out. Shut the door, don't come bother me, let me figure it out. And once I figure it out, then I come back out. But what did I destroy from that silence, from that sheltering? And so now I got to go and try to straighten that out, because when someone always reaching for you and you say they're smacking their hand away, they're going to stop reaching for you eventually. So I would say, yeah, if I was around them brothers, man, try to show them that, like he said, this is a safe space. We ain't taking nothing back and throwing it in your face. And if it's a problem, once we talk about it and get through it, we got a resolution, then we moving from it. I'm never going to bring that up again.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to ask you guys something, because you guys have given us a lot of stories about vulnerability, building community, and of course, being the leaders of your own lives, and of course, the communities that surround you. What would you say, what cycle ends with you?
Everybody on mute but me?
Yeah.
Man, that's funny. Listen,
With me, the fear cycles ending with me and mine. You know, we're not gonna be afraid of no challenges. We jumping out. We're gonna make sure we understand everything. I'm big on homework and doing your due diligence. You know, go research. No, where's the recon? Go out there and figure this out. Come back, but we're not gonna be afraid to dive into anything when we see there's a avenue there. I moved here in 2003. When I left Iowa, I knew about Bitcoin. I knew about Netflix. I knew about Gateway 2000. But I was the type of person come from people that didn't invest unless they saw it. And me having that money then to do that, I walked away from all of it because I didn't see it. I didn't see no future in it. I moved here 10 years later, boom, look at it. Then I go back and everything is much more expensive to get into, but I did it anyway. But some people grabbed me before it was what it was, and I walked away from it because of fear and thinking I was gonna get scammed out my money and didn't understand what was going on or the way that was going. So if I can end that cycle of fear, because I saw it coming up, being raised by a bunch of hunters and gatherers, and that to go to people with learn from people that know business, trading, real estate, and just giving something different. So I break that I can say that vortex of where my family was and move my kids and grandkids in a totally different direction that I felt people that were just workers was afraid to go. So I'd have moved to different places. My family is still in Arkansas, East St. Louis. And I'd have been multiple different places because there's no fear when it comes to moving and starting over at all.
yeah, I mean, I love that. I would think, anything negative, right? You're trying to be the end of the cycle of anything negative. And that could be, my father didn't go to college. My mom got an associate's degree, but she really drilled into us education kind of being this way up and way out, right? And now, there's lots of ways, not just education, right? There's so many different ways to kind of hustle and make money. And so I think being a free thinker and definitely not being afraid, I mean, Tony's right, is huge. But my kids are now they go to private undergraduates, right? Looking elementary school, and they'll go to private middle school. We went to public schools and we went to private colleges, but I think that the education is not about so much about what you learn and what you know. It's about who you know and the network that they're getting exposed to, through these schools is just unbelievable. You know what I mean? So if you have the means and ability, I would just, I would love to see the end of the cycle of a lack of access, because and sometimes you don't have access because you don't even know it exists, right? So because I left Baltimore at 18, I went to Duke for undergrad, I went to Vanderbilt for business school. You just get exposed to so much, that you can't, unfortunately, it's hard to get that same level of exposure if you stay home. So the kids got to kind of go off to college or go off to wherever they're going to go to have those experiences, to not live in fear. And they got a comfortable life. So I know they're not going to want to leave, but they got to, if you're going to end kind of the cycle of lack of access, they got to go out and get it. And so between now and 18, we're just trying to equip them with the tools they need. We all grew up, in those streets, right? It's like you leave the house in the morning, nobody knows where you at. You in the alleys, you playing, you drive around your bike. There's nobody watching you, right? You just got full autonomy over your life, long as you home by dark. Nobody's really looking for you. You know, my son right now, we were at in Playa Vista, which is a nice neighborhood, and maybe 2,000 yards, he couldn't just leave me and go into the grocery store and get something and come back. Right? Remember that? Go to the store and go get me a soda or this, some bread, whatever it is. You could do that at 6, 7, 8 years old because you had that kind of autonomy, right? The kids are not being raised in that same kind of way because we nervous or we this or whatever. And so I'm just trying to make sure they have the tools, even if they get them in different ways than how we got them, so that they can go off and not feel sheltered. You know, I really want them to just, realize that they can access it all. So I think that, that's the cycle I want to end, just the lack of access.
I think the cycle I want to end is the cycle of Cain killing Abel. And somebody said I look like T.D. Jakes, so I might preach for like two minutes here. Cain killed Abel, right? And when we think about it, a lot of times we allow the constructs that we live in, or even like someone mentioned, fears, we allow what people believe that we can do or what has been said that we can do. We allow it to confine what we're actually able to do. Or we make moves and decisions that we make moves and decisions based on what we can do now that affect what we're able to do later. So the cycle I really want to end is the cycle of moving off of instinct. And I want to begin the cycle of moving with intention.
Yeah, I think that was an incredible question, actually. And I actually had to put some thought into it. But the first thing that came to mind is ending the cycle of being average. I think, and I just think about, me growing up, I think my own limited belief prevented me from taking advantage of a lot of things because I didn't think I was good enough in, going after my dreams. And I think about, and something that I, when I'm working with, mentoring, I say, at what point did we stop believing in the inner child of all the things we used to want to accomplish? I thought about all the cars I used to put on my wall, my dream house, the dream trips, all of that. And then somewhere as an adult, I just became like, oh, maybe that's not for me. And so somewhere along the line, I became an average person. And I don't want to just fit in. I want to stick out. And so the cycle that I chose to end is that the cycle of thinking I have to be average. I don't want to disturb people, or I don't want to, and especially as Black people, we always want to be, I don't want to do this because I don't want to. No, like, it's okay to be who you want to become. And that's something that I'm very prideful of being excited of who I became. Yes, I'm a first generation everything in my family, and I proudly wear that like a badge of honor because there's no sign of average anywhere within my vicinity. And so that's the cycle I chose to end.
I like that, Will, because I'm like, I tell kids all the time and folks, I'm like, yeah, I'm in the NBA, never been average. So, definitely, and so I'm like, that's the closest of the NBA I'm gonna be, right? And so I think one of the cycles, matter of fact, no. So one of the cycles is that self-doubt, right? That ends with me. When I think about, my family and with their belief gap and what they felt like they can achieve and accomplish. And when I first bought my house 14 years ago, nobody in my family had a house. And so as soon as I got my house, next, a few years later, families start popping up with houses because they feel like they just needed to see it, right? And so those limiting beliefs stops right here.
I like all of it. It's hard to follow up with all of what the panel has said. I would say the cycle of victimhood, being a victim of circumstance or allowing anyone to make you a victim. I think that cycle has to stop. We've all been through a lot, whether you were raised with both parents or not, or, dealt with some difficult upbringings, whatever that looks like. But you do have a lot of control over your outcomes, and you don't need to be a victim of circumstance. So I pray that, you know, my children are able to break whatever cycle that I might, or break whatever influence that might be negative that I might have put on them, and look at it as, hey, I've got control over these outcomes. I can choose to let this define me in a negative manner or a positive manner and say, hey, Dad probably did this the wrong way. Maybe it's my cooking. I'll tell you, it's my grilling. They can look at my grilling right now and be like, I ain't gonna grill like Dad. He ain't on that right now. So I hope they're not a victim of my poor grilling skills, but other things as well. I want them to be able to walk away and say, I saw him maybe not do it as well. That don't have to be me. I can step it up a notch and make him proud and say, you know, I learned what not to do from him, and then other things as well. So break that cycle of being a victim.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. I love that. Even though we're doing this for Father's Day, which we wanted to do because as mothers in our community, I feel like there's still a lot of hoopla that happens around Mother's Day. You know for sure you're going to get all the bells and whistles. I know I'm getting flowers. I know I'm going out to dinner. I know all these things. So we wanted to take this time and really celebrate all of you gentlemen and the things that you're doing. So what you guys said actually resonated a lot with me, because those are the same cycles that I've had to break with my children and how I've grown up. So I really appreciate that you guys shown that vulnerability to us tonight. As we end our conversation, I just want to ask one final piece of wisdom for fathers, future fathers, sons, and families watching tonight. If all of you gentlemen can drop a little gem.
I'll go because mine will be real short. It's actually an amendment to something I said earlier. I said earlier that I taught myself about being a man and a father, and that's not exactly accurate. As I looked, I grew up in church, and I tried to become the father. I would always hear that God was a father. I always hear God the Father, God the Father. I said, well, I don't have one. And if God's the Father, then I want to be a father like God is. So my advice to all the men out there who don't have examples of what good fatherhood looks like, it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Get in your word, just study the character of God. And if you, in your finite power, can demonstrate a fraction of the love, the care, the regard, the foresight that God gives us, and give it to your children, you will be winning.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Now I'll keep mine very short and simple. One of the things that I adopted within my network of Black men, because not all the Black men in my network are fathers, but they still have the same plight. We made it a habit of telling each other when we depart, hey, I love you, bro. Because sometimes that's the only time we ever hear that word. And there has been times where I've told, one of my brothers, like, bro, I love you. And it put him in a state to where he actually broke down because he had never heard that in his life. I know growing up, I never heard that from neither one of my parents. So to be able to get that type of camaraderie from, people who are not my blood, but we've developed some type of kinship and brotherhood, I think it's very important, because I think we've gotten away from some sense of community because, unfortunately, we got wrapped up in the materialism of being a man, at some point. So I make it a habit of telling my brothers, like, when we depart, hey, bro, I love you. Be safe, and and the world needs you. Like that's my line every single time that I talk to them. So that would be my last thing that I would leave with.
That's real sage advice, man, because it's outside of necessarily like future fathers, but everybody needs that. And you don't even know who needs to hear that, and you might really literally save their life. You know what I mean? I've had some friends and cousins and stuff commit suicide, and you just don't see it coming. So I really appreciate that. I would just, in terms of future fathers, which I think that was part of the question, I would just encourage them to have children. There's a lot of, On my mom's side was 5 and 6 kids. On my dad's side was 5 and 6 kids. We having fewer and fewer kids in general. You know, I have 2. I'm like, I'm done, right? And then you just don't run across a lot of people who have lots and lots of kids. But I would just say, you know, have 1 or 2. You know, as you get older, you know, you'll go to different restaurants if you're fortunate enough. If you'll go on vacations and all these kinds of things. But life only gives you so many experiences. Right? Go and do so many nice restaurants and so many vacations and so many insert whatever it is that is kind of your pleasure. But having that son, having that daughter, it's just one of those things that life gives you an opportunity that you just cannot pass it by. It's just it's too full, it's too rich. It's just one of those, you know, one of life's gifts. And so I would just encourage them. There's never a perfect time if you think about when and how much money, and you always need more of all of those things. You know what I mean? But God is a provider, and things, you know, that don't mean don't be prudent, you know, and plan and save and those kinds of things. But at the same time, don't be afraid. Don't live in fear, you know, because you're not getting any younger, and definitely just be mindful that we all running out of time every single day. You know what I mean? If you over 40, statistically, your life is half over, right? What are you going to do with the second half of your life that's better than the first half? You know, and God willing, we all live to 100, and I'm praying and hoping and believing for that too. But it's still only 100. You know what I mean? So you do the best you can with the time that you got, and you know you don't want to be too much older. Although I do know people having kids, you know, my age and older recently, it does happen. But I would just encourage them to just jump in. The water's fine. Come on in. The water's fine.
One thing that resonated for me, beyond, you know, definitely giving yourself grace, but also don't forget to live simple. We're fathers. We have the weight of the world on our shoulders, and we're not just here on this earth to make a living. Don't forget to live. Someone asked me the other night, they're like, what do you like to do for fun? I'm like, I enjoy the simple things, like bringing my hammock and putting up in the park and hanging my hammock and laying in my hammock, doing something new. Live. Don't forget to live. That's it.
I would just say iron sharpens iron, right? There's been a lot of takeaways from tonight's call. I've been able to learn a lot from the gentleman on the call. So I appreciate everyone's perspective. And yeah, definitely.
I would say, I think y'all are great fathers, man. I know we all come from mistakes, hard times, whatever, but we're doing the best we can with our kids. I would say to new and upcoming fathers, if you plan it, then it's a team effort. You know what I'm saying? You need her as much as she needs you. If it's unplanned, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. As when I was young, I was afraid to just tell anybody except for my mother, hey, I need help. You know, a lot of us now, man, we need help. We don't know what to do. My son became a dad. He didn't know that because the water is okay to you. It may be hot to my granddaughter. You know what I'm saying? So don't think if it's warm to you, it's too hot for her. So little things like that, how to warm milk. So don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid if you need help. Be like, hey man, how do I do this? How do I buy diapers? What's the best diapers? Ask a question, man. It's no problem. You know, go to a class. If you ain't got a class, go to a family member, a friend. You got somebody. Checkerboard Charlie taught me how to do a lot of things. So, hey, just somebody on the corner. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knew him. Hey, Tony, you don't do that stroller like that. You put it together like this. You know, hey, I appreciate that because I didn't know. And I'm not afraid to say I don't know, or I didn't know anything. But most of us used to be that way. I wouldn't tell you nothing coming up. So for the new dads, man, it's okay. You're going to be all right. Love your kid, love your woman, love your family. If you got multiple kids, man, teach them the things you didn't get taught. But like Will Smith said, fear isn't real. Danger is, you know. And that's all I have to say.
I'm going to piggyback on what Jay said earlier. The relationship with God. Listen, that's the biggest thing for me. Spend some time in the Word. I think, you know, continue to do it daily. Yeah, I was just telling a friend this morning that every single day that I continue to read the word, it becomes more like a conversation. I think too often we read the Bible and look at it as just textbook. But when I'm in that space, what I'm realizing is those words are speaking to me and my innermost thoughts, and that's my conversation with God. And so continue to do that, develop that, and it stops feeling like you're being scolded. I think early on, you're kind of like, man, I ain't doing all the right things, right? But then afterwards, you're starting to realize like it's okay. You're being honest with yourself about where things are, and you're talking with God about it. He doesn't hold you to that standard. That's why Jesus died for our sins. And so, and as Jay alluded to earlier, if we can give just a modicum of that type of love to our children and everyone around us, man, the world's going to be a tremendous place because of it.
Man, that was beautiful. I just wanted to tell each and every one of you that you are heard, you are seen, you are appreciated. Most importantly, you are needed. You're needed. Whether you hear it daily, whether you hear it once in a while, but most certainly you are needed. And I just want to thank you all, to our incredible panelists, to our audience. Hopefully you have taken something away from this. Hopefully reach out to one or all of our panelists tonight. To everyone who joined us for Fathers in Faith, continue to support these gentlemen, these amazing men in their businesses, even to just say hi. Even if you want to look into their business or just know them on a personal level, please reach out to these amazing men. They are incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Happy Father's Day. Happy Juneteenth.
Father's Day.
Make sure y'all catch that Obama grand opening today. Was awesome.
Yes.
Live stream, please run that back. That was crazy. I can't wait to watch it again.
And I'm following all of y'all on my socials.
Yeah, we can connect. Yeah, for real.
Please do connect.
Yeah, I'm gonna just take a picture of the screen.
Yeah.
If you're ever in Houston, Texas, let me know. Dallas, Texas, I got gifts for you. Non-dairy, no lactose.
That's right up my alley, Tony.
We don't do the lactose, man, over here.
No, we don't do lactose.
Well, God bless
Thank you so much. God bless everyone. This has been Fathers in Faith, presented by Sister Soul Sessions. Remember, lead with faith, love with intention, and build a legacy that outlives you. Just want to say thank you again, and good night, everybody.
All right. Good night, everybody.